Okay, let's get right into it. Something really big is happening in the world of artificial intelligence. The US has just changed its game plan, and today we're going to break down exactly what that means and the massive ripple effect it's creating all around the world.
In this quote right here, it gets to the absolute heart of the matter. You see, a new definition of fairness coming out of the United States could end up hard-coding inequality for billions of people. This isn't just some small technical tweak in a document. We're talking about a decision with huge global consequences.
So what exactly happened? Well, the US government has pretty much torn up a core page of the AI governance playbook. They've changed the very definition of what fairness means, and honestly, it's shaking things up across the entire tech policy world.
Now have a look at this, because this is the crucial change. On the left, you see the old way of thinking, demographic equity. The goal there was to make sure AI systems delivered fair outcomes for different groups of people. But now, the new standard is ideological neutrality. The focus has completely shifted to making sure different viewpoints are balanced. It's a massive pivot away from real-world results and towards abstract ideas.
And this change isn't just talk. It's being put into action through three key directives. First, they're stripping all mentions of diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI, from the super influential NIST AI risk management framework. Second, government agencies are now told to buy AI that is ideologically neutral. And third, as we just saw, fairness is no longer about equity, it's about ideological parity. The whole rulebook has basically been rewritten.
So this brings us to a really important question. Is this new neutrality standard actually going to protect people? Because when you start digging into it, it looks like focusing only on ideology might create a dangerous blind spot, one that fails to stop very real, very tangible harm.
Let me give you a perfect example from US healthcare. An algorithm was built to be objective. How? By using past healthcare spending to predict who would need care in the future. Sounds logical, right? But here's the catch. Because society had historically spent less money on black patients, the AI concluded they were lower risk, even when they were actually sicker. A supposedly neutral input led to a devastatingly biased outcome.
And we see the exact same trap in the justice system. The famous Compass algorithm was designed to be race-blind. It didn't use race directly. Instead, it used things like a person's zip code. But what happened? Well, those factors just became stand-ins, or proxies for race. The result was that the system was twice as likely to falsely label black defendants as future criminals compared to white defendants.
And this gets to a really critical distinction. The new US plan is all about what we call representational harms. Things like an AI chatbot getting history wrong, or creating a stereotype. But the examples we just looked at, those are allocative harms. That's when AI is unequally handing out real-world stuff, like healthcare, a loan, or even someone's freedom. The new US focus really downplays these much more severe, life-changing kinds of harm.
Okay, so if this neutrality idea is already causing major problems in the US, which has tons of data, just imagine what happens when you export it. The potential for failure gets exponentially bigger. Let's explore why this model is so much more dangerous when it goes global.
The way this happens is through something called standards capture. Basically, it's when one powerful country's very specific, very culturally biased idea, in this case, ideological neutrality, gets pushed out and becomes the default rule for everybody else, whether it makes any sense for them locally or not. And the thing is, the reality on the ground in the global south is so much more complex. The things that can create bias aren't just about race and gender. You have deeply embedded social structures like caste and tribe, religious divides, hundreds of different languages, and massive informal economies that don't produce the clean data AI models love. A simple one-size-fits-all neutrality test just completely misses this entire landscape.
So what does this actually look like for people? It means an AI system could be fully compliant with the new US standard and still systematically deny loans to Dalit people in India. It can mean speech-to-text models that are completely useless for someone who speaks Bundelkhandi. It means university admissions algorithms that penalize students just because they're from a rural area. These are the kinds of devastating real-world harms that a neutrality-only standard would just fly right over.
But here's the good news. Countries in the global south are not just sitting back and accepting this. We are seeing a really powerful counter-movement bubbling up, a movement focused on defining AI fairness in a way that is deeply connected to local history and local context.
And look, this isn't just a theory. You can see it happening right here. Notice the pattern.
India's central bank is demanding fairness that accounts for caste and language. South Africa's policy is explicitly designed to reverse the damage of apartheid. And the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN, is basing its strategy on cooperation to close digital gaps. Each one is defining fairness on its own terms.
So, here's the main takeaway. For these nations, fairness is not some abstract, philosophical debate about ideology. It is a practical, operational necessity. It's a tool they need to make sure AI actually leads to fair development and doesn't just entrench the injustices of the past.
All this momentum is now building towards something even bigger, a call for a unified blueprint, a plan for the Global South to go from being rule takers to becoming the world's new rule makers when it comes to AI.
And this is that blueprint. It's built on 5 really powerful ideas. It starts with building a shared foundation, creating a common language for fairness that includes realities like caste, and pooling resources to build shared testing tools. Then it's about building collective power, forming a diplomatic bloc to vote together on global standards, sharing computing resources, and forcing tech companies to meet tough, shared rules if they want to sell their AI in the region.
And just to give you a sense of how ambitious this is, look at this number. That shared testing toolkit they're proposing, it would include datasets for over 100 low-resource languages. This is all about building the tools to hold AI accountable to their own diverse populations, not to some narrow American-centric standard.
And that brings us to the fundamental choice that this moment presents. Will the nations of the Global South simply accept a standard that was not built for them, becoming standards takers? Or will they seize this historic opportunity, come together, and become the world's new standards makers? The momentum is there, and the choice they make is going to define what fair AI looks like for all of us.